Once upon a time, engineers were used to wear white shirts with huge shirt pockets here. So, at the beginning of the 90s, Jeff Hawkins imagined a computer that could be placed in a shirt pocket. To verify the goodness of his idea, Jeff carved a block of wood and put it in his shirt pocket together with a stick. Every time he had to take notes or fix an appointment, he extracted it and simulated the operation. The Palm Pilot was born, the ancestor of the smartphone. We often tend to imagine the development of a vision as a very static activity, in which drawings and models are produced. In reality, after a first initial draft, it is typical of a leader to be immersed completely in the vision, to experiment and to verify with all five senses if the idea works, adapting it to the context as it is realized. This is true not only for the realization of a product, but also for the development of a service. My colleague Ben Johnson and I spent a year developing a workshop on team working, initially imagining and rehearsing the exercises between ourselves, then involving collaborators and university students, and lastly, testing a pilot session with our client. The final product turned out to be very different and certainly better from what we had initially imagined. My approach to transform an idea into a product can be summarized in 6 steps. First, the initial idea, the vision, is always quite blurry for the simple reason that we still lack most information. To increase clarity, it is necessary to study and to acquire more technical knowledge. When I start thinking about a new course, I do my research by reading books, searching for information on the internet, and looking at what other instructors have already done. In the process, I note which aspects I find interesting and which boring or annoying. Second, once the vision is in focus, one way to make it more tangible is to build a mind map where the main characteristics are listed. Third, I use the same mind map to share the vision, a tool for presentation and clarification, which allows me to collect valuable inputs for the subsequent refinement of the idea. Fourth, using the feedback collected during the sharing phase, I develop a detailed outline. In fact, while the mind map is excellent for stimulating creativity, the implementation phase requires more structure. For example, a list of the topics covered in the course and a table of the key points to be developed. Fifth, as soon as I have collected the necessary information, I begin to create a first prototype to be tested with a group of people interested in the success of the idea. Sixth, once the additional feedback has been incorporated, I only need to repeat the process several times through a series of iterations that require less and less changes until the product creates enough value to be launched on the market. This process of improvement will then continue with increasingly reduced commitment until the end of the product life cycle. It is important to understand that a prototype is very different from a drawing or a scale model. In fact, it is not a representation of what we want to build, but rather a product that is already functional, even if with a reduced number of features. For this reason, it is essential to start testing the prototype as soon as possible. In fact, no matter how sophisticated our simulations are, it is only when we can see, touch, smell, hear, taste, that we are able to tell if we really like what we have created. In fact, if it is true that it is absolutely critical to stop and think and plan before starting a project, it is equally true that if we waited until we got all the details, we would risk building a project that meets stakeholder needs only on paper. One of the fundamental characteristics of a leader is the ability to transform vision into action.